Welcome to another episode of I Am AAPC. Today we have Grabiela Juarez with us. Hi, Gabby. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Alex.
Good. Thanks so much for being with us today. We're excited to hear about your story. I know we've seen you on AAPC social media channels, helping out other members, and we also know that you serve locally at the Salt Lake AAPC chapter. Would you just tell us a little bit about your career history? How did you get into this field?
Yeah, of course. And again, thank you so much for having me. And it's kind of nice to be noticed, right? Because I'm doing this, but I'm just doing it because I want to help people, you know?
I love that.
And people notice, and you don't realize that people do notice, and that you're making an impact, right? And that's so rewarding to me. So yeah, I actually got into coding because I'm from a small town in Idaho called Rupert. They call it the Christmas city. It's so cute. It could be in a Hallmark movie. Uh, so when I lived there, there was about 4,000 people. Now it's starting to grow, but at that point in time, there was no way for me to grow, right? And so I had to make a decision to transition to a new city that would still have nature, what I love. I love nature, and Salt Lake City has the mountains. You're able to go hike and fish and do all of that, but it also has opportunity, right? So I moved here in 2013. So I've been here for over 10 years. And I started at a staffing agency, and it was a medical staffing agent because I was just open to any opportunities. And so that opportunity was to pull EOBs. And that allowed me to gain skills that I then transitioned over to a dental office, right? And I started scheduling and billing, prior authorizations. And I'm so glad for all of that because it allowed me to move laterally. And I'm a type of person, right, who likes to learn if I don't know something. And so that's how I stumbled across coding. And I learned that it could be an actual career. So I ran with it. And that's when I found out that it could be so much more, but it also had a huge part to do with myself, right? So, sorry, I forgot to backtrack, but I started in the clinical side as a CNA in 2010. So that's kind of where it started,
Was
right? And
this before you went to the medical staffing agency?
yeah, that was before in Idaho. I
Okay.
was a CNA.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I came here and I started working for the dental office in 2013. And then it
Did
was just
you I'm
oh,
curious, did you when you went to the medical staffing agency, did you want to leave the clinical side or were you looking for
yeah.
another CNA type of position?
So I believe that a lot of people actually start on the clinical side, right? As a CNA or as a nurse, a medical assistant, and then they find that they love healthcare, but they'd rather be in the administrative side, right? And so I think well, I kind of feel that's kind of what happens with, like I said, with a lot of people. But and that was with me. I love helping people. I want to make an impact, but I don't really want to do the CNA. It's a lot of hard work, right? And props to anyone who does it, because it's meaningful what they do. And so I just went and I told them these are my skills, as working as a teller at a bank with my property management experience. I was just new to the city and I was trying to find whatever worked. I was just kind of going with the flow, and
You needed a paycheck,
yeah.
period.
Yeah. And I found out that it kind of the universe works in mysterious ways. And I've just kind of good or bad, I've just gone with the flow. And I am grateful for like I said, the good and bad, right? Because it's allowed me to be in the position that I am in today. So I'm grateful for any experience that I've had. So that staffing agency, And some people, when they get their foot in the door, I say, go to a staffing agency.
Yeah.
Don't discredit a staffing agency, right? Go into a biller position, go into customer service. You know, there's a lot of skills that transition over into being a coder. And sorry, I'm going a little off topic with how I got into that, but
that's all right.
yeah, but I love it. But being a biller initially, I only looked at it from one point of view, and then becoming a coder, it just went full circle. So it was really neat to see, because it all just made more sense to me.
Well, were you billing at the dentist office? So you were pulling EOBs. That was the first position that the staffing agency gave you. And then
Right.
you worked at a dentist office. Was that also through the staffing agency?
No, that was separate. So the staffing agency was kind of my stepping stone to, because I didn't know what I knew what an EOB was, but I had no idea how to pull it. And that's why I was saying it's funny, because I would enter the patient information and their ID number and nothing would pop up. And I'm like, okay, well, I think that's a EOB, because I was thinking, I know what the insurance that we would receive in the mail would look like, but I'm not sure about a insurance portal. I had never been inside an insurance portal. And so just say nothing available. And I would just print that and give it to whoever it needed to go to. And I would just say, oh, it's not available. And I had thought that was an EOB. And now I know that EOBs come in a variety of different formats. They all have the same information, but variety of different formats. And I know what they look like. So I always I tell all of my employees, like, give yourself grace. Yeah. They're like, because they say, oh man, you know so much, you have so much information. Well, this wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
You know, this is over 10 years of experience. And it's really nice to see that when they learn, they can just pull up an ELB, or they know where to go in the EHR or EMR system. So it's nice to see them flourish. And I say, look at you, you know, and you're just saying that you're like, when will I learn this? You will, and you won't even notice. Yep. You just will know it.
So was
with practice and patience.
Was it the dentist office that gave you the billing experience, or was it even beyond? Okay, it was that.
Right, and it's I've actually met a few people, because I haven't met a lot of people. I thought I was only one of the few, because at a dentist office you think of the dentist, but there's an ambulatory surgical center. So where there's children, right? That you can't put the laughing gas, or they move too much, and it's kind of dangerous for them to get any teeth work done. So they are given general anesthesia to be put to sleep completely. And so that's where the medical coding, that medical billing part comes into play, and the prior authorizations and the AR for payments and denials. So that's where that started. And then after that, I moved up.
Okay, and I'm curious, was at that dentist office, was that the first time you crossed paths with coding? You're like, oh, this is what medical coding is.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where I first crossed paths, as you say.
How did you know that you might like it? What was that experience like when you saw, and how did you learn more about it?
Right. I think I've always been very inquisitive.
Okay.
And I've always liked to investigate a problem if I don't know it. And so it was really nice to know that, like, again, it's always about, for me, I think part of my, if you would call it a love language, is to know that I'm making an impact, right? Yeah. And so it was really nice to know that they didn't have anybody previously in that role. And so they're providing services to these patients, right? To these little ones, but they weren't getting paid for it. And in order for us to continue to provide these services, we need to be able to afford to have anesthesiologists, a dentist who can come in, a nurse who can be there and help with post-op, right? We need to be able to keep it running in order to be able to provide that quality of care to the patients. And to know that I was able to research and investigate and learn how to do the prior authorizations, do the billing, and bring in, I think it was over 100. It went from not any money to, and it was a small clinic, but 100 grand to them was a lot that was coming in extra each month. And so I was employee of the month like 3 times in in a row. But to
Making them
me, it
money,
was fun
saving them
because I
money.
enjoy, yeah, because I enjoy puzzles, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was fun to do that. But now I wasn't really thinking of the impact that it made then. But now knowing more of the administrative side of like full-time employees, how the providers get paid, then I think of that now for them
And
also.
how
Mhm.
did you know when you wanted to be certified and move forward in the coding path? Because you have all of this variety of experience at the dentist office, and you're like, I'm doing coding. Let's do this.
Right. It actually took me a couple of years after that. So at my next position, I worked at a home health and hospice, and I just started to learn more about that. And as I was learning codes, I realized that I was in a different specialty. And so as always, I wanted to keep on learning. And I inquired about medical coding, and I felt it would be valuable, right? But I couldn't really afford it out of pocket at that point in my life. And so I inquired with my employer, and unfortunately it wasn't covered. But at my next job after that, they said, yeah, we'll pay it. And I was over the moon, and I was
Wow.
like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And I said, I will pass this on my first try. And I did, and it was nice. I sat there for the 5 hours and 40 minutes without one pee break. The time went by so fast.
Yeah.
And just going through all of it, and then to find out that I passed was such an amazing feeling. But it really made so much more sense, and I felt as a more valuable asset to the team. And I was able to not only assist the in the position that I was in, but I was able to assist my company as a whole, because I was one of the very few that were certified, and I was glad for that opportunity.
I want to
Yeah.
hear about your study experience, Gabby. What was it like preparing for the exam? What were the concepts in your studies obscure and confusing? Tell us about the
Yeah,
challenges and successes you had with that.
right. So back then was different than what it is now, right? Just because now I teach it, I understand it. It's kind of like then you weren't fully aware, but now it just everything. I didn't fully understand the cardiology section. Now it's like, oh, this is as bad as I thought it was back then, you know?
Yeah.
And then medical terminology and human anatomy. It was kind of hard in the beginning, and now I teach medical terminology and human anatomy. So now it makes more sense to me. But back then I was just like, oh, I don't know. Like if it makes sense, I don't know what a combining vowel is, combining form, how to read a medical term. And now it's cool because uh I used to read anime books as a kid. And so I would read them from the right from the back to the front. And a medical term you read from the back to, I mean, right to left. And so that's how you break it down. Like trying to figure out a word, gastritis maybe.
Hmm.
So itis is inflammation,
Okay.
gastro is the stomach,
Yeah.
but it's not stomach inflammation, it's inflammation of the stomach, right?
Interesting.
And so I'm teaching that, but I didn't grasp this in the beginning. But I know that now it's it's so important to help you build a strong foundation so that you feel confident in what you are reading, because in the medical documentation you have all of these words, but what do they mean, right?
Yeah.
If we don't understand medical terminology and human anatomy, then we kind of set up ourselves for a little bit of failure. So it helps to take a course or to buy an anatomy book on Amazon, a coloring book, whatever. Everybody has a different style, but I would definitely recommend to start doing that and use your books to your advantage, because you get to, it's kind of like a driver's test, right?
Yeah.
When I first moved here to Utah, I had to retake my driver's test, and it was open book. And I was thinking, oh man, how am I going to pass this driver's test? It's been years since I took one, but then they told me you can use your book. You can use the book to take the test. And I was like, oh, okay, then that's perfect. Right. And so I love that we're able to use our books and write notes and highlight to make them work for us. So when I see a blank book, I'm like, oh, well, some people it works for them, but for the most part, I really would love to see notes, right? And then the guidelines are so important. Make sure that sometimes I get a little bit of blind eyes. So a ruler, right? When you're looking at the codes. And so with a diagnosis codes also not fully, you don't have to memorize the whole section, but know how to find something. Just learn how to find something. So I think that would be what I would recommend. And there's so much more.
Yeah.
So how much time I could talk
Yeah.
forever.
That's right. Well, I mean, I love that. So you've given a great overview of the challenges and that new coders or students may face, and they're thinking, how will I ever get this? But it's really just a matter of time. Over the years, it becomes ingrained in everything that you do.
It really does.
That's cool. Well, so this home health facility gives you that opportunity to be certified. You become certified. Where does your career go from there?
So after I became, so at the home health, I transitioned to a third-party billing. I didn't even know they existed. And that's where I was given the opportunity to get my certification.
Okay.
Was at the third, and they did podiatry, they did pain management, they did labs. So they did a little bit of everything. But even though I was able to use my certificate there, I was still looking for growth, right? And so I was still kind of confined to what I felt could be more.
Yeah.
Right? Because I had really seen, and I've been with, I love AAPC. I follow AAPC on social media, right? I follow the posts, and I see how much people excel. And if I wanted to excel, I had to kind of take myself out of a comfort zone, right? Because some of us get a little comfortable, and that's totally okay. But for me, I believe I was 27, and so I really was trying to see what I wanted to do with my life, and I got this certification. And the next thing was, let's get another one. It was kind of like a tattoo. But yeah, once you have one, let's go get another one.
Funny.
Yeah. And so I went and I grabbed my my next certificate, and also with I believe it was with the assistance of, is it called Free AAPC?
Yes, the campaign we had several years ago. We've had it once a year for the past few years. You just never know if it's going to happen or not. But you took advantage of that.
Yes, definitely. I keep an eye out for anything that's
Okay,
that's
real quick, Gabby. So what was that second certification that you earned?
What was my second? I believe it was I'm trying to think if it was the COC or the CPMA.
Okay.
I believe it was a COC.
Okay. So you earned your CPC, then you're just itching for that next credential.
Right.
Which you think was a COC, and then free AAPC happens.
Yeah.
And what did you take from that offer?
The CPMA.
CPMA. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's auditing.
Right.
And you had your eyes on auditing, or
yeah,
okay, tell us about that. What led you to wanting that, and do you work in auditing?
So I would say yes, kind of, sort of. So when I got my CPMA, I actually did a full PowerPoint to my employer with, this is what auditing is, because it wasn't a service we provided, but I've always created opportunities for myself either way. And so I'm like, this is what I was there. This is what auditing is. are the different types of auditing. These are the type of audits that we can perform. You know, these are the scopes. So and they said, yeah, we're all for it. And that was so exciting because I had my CPMA, and to me, because again, I like puzzles, right? It was and I feel like I'm just a nerd, right? Because I liked coding, but it was like a puzzle and checking other people's work to make sure that it was accurate. And if I could spot and if it could be great, but if I could spot, because sometimes I'll be reading books that have been published, or and they're like, oh my gosh, they wrote that wrong, and I found that. You know, and it's just little things like that that make me yeah, I excited for some reason. But yeah, I liked auditing. We did auditing for providers who were working in hospitals. And then I love the analytical part where I could measure their performance with other providers in the same specialty across the US, right? And to bring that information to them and see how that could help, and how I could communicate with them, and how I could educate them. It's nice. I really enjoy that part.
And there are so many different avenues a coder can go down: compliance, auditing, training. And you know, you've done auditing, you've coded, audited, you've billed,
Yeah.
and you had mentioned that you also teach people coding now. So you're kind of an education guru as well.
Yes, and that's what I tell people, that there's so once you get into auditing, you'll find what you like. And for me, I like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But like you said, compliance, right? Auditing, teaching, consulting. There's so much that you can do. And it's really neat to know that because like I said, you determine your own success, and you can be very successful in this field. And I feel like with my well, it's nice that I moved laterally, but with all of my experience investing in myself, the knowledge I have seen that fruition, right?
Yep.
I feel like I'm a proof of that. And it's nice. It did take time, it did take some work, right? But I mean, it's happening, I'm living it, and it's really nice. It's really
Awesome.
nice to see
So
that.
what do you do now? I know education is a part of what you do, and that I think that might be
Yes,
a side kind of thing you do when you're not at the regular office. So tell us
right.
where is your career right now?
Right now, I am a billing manager.
Okay.
So I'm a billing manager for over 10 clinics that are for podiatry, wound care. We just acquired a health spa, and they're all over the state of Utah. We've expanded to Georgia and Florida. We're expanding to different states. So I'm
Wow.
the billing manager for all of those locations. And I love that because I love my job currently because I collaborate with everyone from because I know the revenue cycle. I collaborate with the front desk, I collaborate with the providers, I collaborate with leadership to make this all work, right? And it's a beautiful thing to see because as at a third party, or at the home health, I was just one component. I was one component of something bigger. And now I manage and I support and I guide the other components. And I tell them, I'm so I know how important each of you are, you know, because I've been in every single position. So I know how important to my employees, I know how important each of you are.
You
And we
understand them
yeah,
and their
yeah.
needs, and how you can help them be successful.
Right. And I provide and I get to educate at work too. And I provide trainings without CEUs, but I need to work on that because there's some organizations that provide CEUs for training. But I have had a few employees go with me to chapter meetings, and I want them to get that exposure because they can network, they can get education, and I would hate if they were to leave me, but I want to make them confident, you know, and I want to see them flourish. So if they're ready for that next step, just like I was, I'm here to support you. So
Awesome.
yeah, and like you said, I do educate at the Salt Lake Community College. So currently we're doing medical terminology and human anatomy, and then we'll go into medical coding. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I always ask this as we wind down our interviews, and I don't know how you have time, how you would have time for anything else, but when you want to take a breather from the healthcare industry, what kind of
Yeah.
things do you like to do, Gabby?
Ooh, it's kind of hard to take a break because I'll be going through my LinkedIn and I'll just be reading and I'll tell my director, my boss, and it just said, "Oh, I was just doing some casual reading. Did you read this?" And that's like, Gabby, that's not casual reading.
Yeah, you're not normal, Gabby.
Yeah, so, but he loves that about me, because I just enjoy learning. And to me, I'm like, oh, change healthcare, or I learn about different things, or did you know there's a new code coming out? And he thinks I'm reading over here fan fiction or autobiography, and I'm over here like G2211. How
Yeah,
can I make a synopsis of that and teach it? Can we use that
yeah.
for us? But aside from that, I enjoy movies. I
Okay.
enjoy hanging out, trying new food.
Well, tell
Uh,
me what's your favorite movie genre, Gabby?
oh man, I'm pretty eclectic.
Yeah.
I right now my favorite movie would be Dune 2.
Okay, that
That's
was a
one of
pretty
my
amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. And I tell people, have you seen Dune? They're like, I haven't seen Dune 1. I'm like, what? You haven't seen? I was like, well, if you like to read the book first and then watch the movies. But I like comedies. I like a good chick flick. I like a good action movie, fantasy, a little bit of everything. But I also like nostalgia. So I'll be rewatching movies like the Coneheads or
That's funny.
yeah,
Awesome.
one of my favorites also.
Okay. All right. I'll have to revisit the Coneheads. It's been a while.
Yeah, you forget that these movies exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Gabby, oh, go
yeah.
ahead. What were you going to
Oh
say?
no, it's fine.
I was just going to say that your story is just awesome. It's been great to see um, how paths appeared in unexpected ways.
Hmm.
And you had no idea in the moment that it would lead to where you are, but without those foundational pieces, starting with the staffing agency
Yeah,
and all of that were just building blocks to where you are now.
exactly. So sometimes people want to just get straight to it, right? And sometimes you can. There's not a problem with that, but it's nice to have those building blocks.
Yeah.
Right, it's nice to have those because right now, like I said, as a building manager, understanding those building blocks and being in those and obtaining those skills are really helpful now because I just don't tell people what to do. I tell people why they're doing something, the reason behind it. And this is why we're doing this. This is the impact of that, because I understand that and I want them to be able to understand it also. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks so much for sharing your story, Gabby. We appreciate it. We look forward
Yeah.
to seeing what or where your career leads in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Alex. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.